entering fantasy drafts, here's a few wide receivers I look to avoid this season in your drafts. The first guy, Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins. So Tyreek Hill, he was a made man for fantasy football with Patrick Mahomes, obviously, in Kansas City. But now going to the Miami Dolphins, it's a whole different ball game here for Tyreek Hill and his fantasy value. Yeah, he's going to get a lot of catches and stuff, but I don't think he's going to have that breakaway ball games. Tua, we don't know if he could stretch the field that long. Obviously, he's not going to be like a Patrick Mahomes. And last season was a monster year once again for Hill. He wanted to get paid, and the Chiefs didn't want to give him the big money. But the Chiefs, they got 4 or 5 first-round picks, I believe, in that draft here. So Hill last season, 111 catches, 1,239 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns, and a fumble loss. This season, I think he'll crack 1,000 yards. The touchdowns are going to go down. Receptions, I don't think he'll hit 100 here. It's just a whole different ball game now. With Patrick Mahomes to Tua, it's a night and day difference here. And Tyreek Hill right now, he's going mid-second, early third round. And he's a guy I just want to avoid altogether here is Hill. There was even games in Kansas City throughout his career where he would disappear. And this season, I think we're going to see a lot of ball games where he's only going to get 7 to 10 fantasy points here is Tyreek Hill. And if he don't score a touchdown, he won't be a big fantasy contributor week by week. So right now, while he's on a worse team in Miami in terms of the offensive game plan and stuff, Tyreek Hill, his fantasy value definitely takes a hit in my opinion here. And he's a guy that went for the money. He's got a Super Bowl ring under his belt. And right now, fantasy owners should shy away from him because I know I definitely will. In that terms of the draft, I'd rather have a guy like a DJ Moore over a Tyreek Hill this season. I'd rather have Keenan Allen, or maybe a Michael Pittman as well. Definitely a Mike Evans down there in the draft. So right now, Tyreek Hill, he's going that mid-second, third round, which obviously at least his value dropped from last season where he was a first-rounder in fantasy drafts. But I think Miami's a bad fit for him. I definitely could be wrong, but I'm going to avoid drafting Tyreek Hill this season. The next guy is Amari Cooper of the Cleveland Browns. So Cooper traded from the Cowboys to the Browns, and the Browns already have a problem here. Deshaun Watson suspended 6 games. Jacoby Brissett, the quarterback over there in Cleveland. And we know we don't stretch the field, even though we know Cooper's another neat type of route runner and a guy who tries to get his plays yards after catch. But last season, to be honest, Amari Cooper, he disappeared in so many ball games where you didn't even know he was playing. And he was a guy that just couldn't get the job done in fantasy. 68 catches, 865 receiving yards, and 8 receiving touchdowns. I could see similar type of numbers once again here for him in Cleveland this season. But like I mentioned, if Watson's going to miss 6 games, that's going to take a hit here for Amari Cooper. And he definitely lost a step or two as well over the last few seasons in Dallas. This guy's had some nagging injuries. He's up a lot on that hamstring and stuff here. And right now, I don't think it's a good thing here for Amari Cooper to be a guy to count on here for fantasy football. As a bench guy coming off the bench, or maybe a flex maybe, but to be a number 2 receiver on your team, I definitely wouldn't want him on my roster because he disappears in too many games. And with the quarterback problem over there in Cleveland, that's not going to help as well. So right here, I know he's going 7th, 8th round in most fantasy leagues is Cooper, but he's a guy I would stay away from because I don't know what we're going to get from him. And he's just a guy that his best days do look behind him over the last few seasons. Next guy's Brandon Ayuk of the San Francisco 49ers. So Ayuk, his rookie season, he was great, but last season he didn't do much until pretty much the second half of the year, but he only finished 56 catches, 825 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns. And now this San Francisco 49er offense, they're going to change this whole offense here. They're going to go to a run-heavy and trick play-heavy type of thing, I think, over there in San Francisco. Well, now Trey Lance declared the number 1 guy and the quarterback over there. So Lance, we saw him a few times last season in games. He had trouble getting the ball to his wide receivers. I know he has all training camp now, but he's still the 3rd or 4th option on this offense. Here's Brandon Ayuk. Trey Lance, he's going to run the ball a lot. It wouldn't surprise me to see him get anywhere from 6 to 800 yards rushing this season. And he's only going to throw to Deebo Samuel for the most part and George Kittle. So Ayuk, once again, I think he could have a similar type of season to like he did last year. 700 or 800 yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns. And that's not really exciting to me here. And he's a guy going right now 7th or 8th round in most fantasy drafts. But we don't know what they're going to do in San Francisco. Ayuk, he had a sophomore slump, no doubt about it, last season. And right now, as a flex option, I wouldn't even count on him as that. As a bench guy in shallow leagues, yeah, why not? But to count on Ayuk to be a good contributor to your fantasy team, I just don't see it this season, and he's definitely a guy I would avoid drafting this year heading into your fantasy drafts. The next guy I look to avoid, Michael Thomas of the New Orleans Saints. So Michael Thomas, he hasn't played pretty much in 2 seasons here. Now he's healthy. He's completed drills over the last few weeks, and he's not starting the year on POP. This guy, one of the best wide receivers a few seasons ago. But I think he's a guy that's dogged now. He got his money over the last few seasons. Yeah, he has injuries, but he's making it more serious than he seems. He got his big $100 million contract. He hasn't played in pretty much 2 seasons. Here's Thomas. And now there's no more Drew Brees, obviously, there over the last few seasons, even though Jameis Winston is a guy that could get the ball to his playmakers. We saw him throw for 5,000 yards a few seasons ago, obviously in Tampa Bay with Godwin and Mike Evans. But right here, you can't count on Michael Thomas. He's still a guy going in decent range in the 7th or 8th round. But I'll let someone else deal with that headache, because last season you thought he was coming back, and he just didn't come back at all. He was supposed to only be out a few weeks, and it turned into a whole season. So Michael Thomas, I feel like he don't want to play. I feel like he got his money, and he's packing it in right now. So right now, someone else could take a chance on him and hope he pans out. And yeah, he definitely could pan out, but I don't want to be the guy to take Thomas this season. So I'm going to avoid him at all costs and let someone else deal with him. No doubt about it, he has high upside. But now he's got to go out there, play, and perform. And I don't know if he could do it at a high level like he once did, is Thomas. And the 5th and final wide receiver I would avoid this season's Christian Kirk of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the Jaguars backed up the brink truck some money here for Christian Kirk. And he got paid huge money. And now he's going from a pretty explosive offense in Arizona now to Jacksonville, where last season they were one of the worst offenses in all of pro football. I know Travis Etienne's coming back. I know it's going to be Trevor Lawrence's second year in the league here. But Christian Kirk, he's a guy that's been hot and cold throughout his whole career. Last season, 77 catches, 982 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns. I don't think that's a guy that should have got an $83 million deal with a pretty decent season. But this year, yeah, he could put up similar numbers, but there's going to be a lot of ball games where he's going to disappear and not put up fantasy numbers. So right now, Christian Kirk, he's going about 9th to 10th round for fantasy owners. As a bench piece, yeah, you could live with it. But if you're going to start him as your number 2 wide receiver, or think he's going to be a huge breakout guy just because he got a big contract, you're definitely wrong, I think, about that with Christian Kirk. He's going to a worse situation and to a worse quarterback, even though Trevor Lawrence, when it's all said and done, you never know, could have a better career than Kyler Murray, because Murray's had his problems as well, where I think he's looking to run too much. But anyway, Trevor Lawrence and Christian Kirk, I don't know if they'll pair up good this season. And Kirk's a wide receiver I'm looking to avoid. I think there's just a little too much hype about him, especially with the contract he got. So that's a few wide receivers I look to avoid here entering fantasy drafts within the next few weeks.